Rob.
And Michelle.
Welcome to Axel's Garage. This is our second road trip Ford Maverick video. And this one is a different one. In the first road trip, we went 750 or so miles, traveling from New York to South Carolina, through the mountains on the west side of all the eastern states. We didn't do like the I-95 interstate stuff. We don't like those roads. But what we did do is drive the car that we normally would drive any other car or truck. So when I drove, I used cruise control. When Michelle drove, she does not use cruise control. She just doesn't like cruise control. So we drove normally. We ignored the hybrid features of the vehicle, and we got an average of 38 miles per gallon on that trip. And how we came up with that average was the actual fuel, putting fuel in, and then doing the math to see how many miles we went and how much fuel we used starting from full, and what the car said we were doing. We were sort of like anywhere from 2 to 3 mile per hour discrepancy, the car being a little bit higher than our actual fuel. But you never know what your actual fill up is, because some pumps will shut it off a little bit higher than others. And what we did was we put it in, didn't do it on high speed, did it on the low speed, let it fill, and then when it clicked off, we waited about 20 seconds, put the pump back on again, and when it clicked off a second time is when we shut it down. We didn't try to overfill the tank at all either, to try to get a reasonable estimate. And we were, like I said, between 2 and 3 miles per hour off from each other. We split the difference, and we're saying 38 miles per gallon highway in this 2023 Ford Maverick that now has just over 1,000 miles on it. When we left on that first trip, it had 120 or 125 or so miles, right?
Yep, we break our cars in quick.
Yeah, we do. So what we're going to do is we're on the return trip, and I'm going to link that video up here for you if you want to watch that. We do a little chatting about the vehicle and things that we kind of felt were neat and to address for that first road trip. So now we're on our second road trip, and we're going to try this one in eco mode. And the drawback to eco mode is every time you start it up, you need to put it back to eco because it defaults to normal. So we're going to have to make a conscious effort to try to remember to do that each time. So we just filled up in Gaffney, South Carolina.
Yep.
And
44 bucks.
44 bucks to fill it up. That was pretty good. Right, we put 13.4 gallons in the 13.8 gallon tank.
We were really low.
Yeah, we were, but it could have just, been that pump goes higher than, I don't know, whatever it was. Anyway, we left Gaffney, South Carolina, and we are headed to Lynchburg, Virginia. And that's our next stop. Well, that's not our next stop. We're going to stop and switch. Halfway, we'll stop and switch positions here in the vehicle. And then we'll continue on to Lynchburg.
About 4 hours. Welcome to North Carolina.
Oh, we're already out of South Carolina. Look at that. Okay, here we go.
Gaffney's close into South Carolina.
So we're in North Carolina. We got to make it to Lynchburg, Virginia, and we'll let you know what kind of mileage the vehicle's system thinks we're getting. What do we drive? Almost 17 miles so far, and we're averaging 40.1 miles per gallon in the first 17 miles or so. So we're off to a good start. It's not that we're not driving it any differently. We're driving it like we normally do, and just leaving it in the eco mode. And
I can only drive like I normally do. I can't.
You can't do that hyper pedaling and trying to save
Nope.
fuel. It's a lot of.
Nope.
Yeah, it's just
Left
easier
foot and stop.
Just to drive, listen to a podcast, or put the music on and go and forget about the mileage, and then we'll do the mileage at the end. See you in Lynchburg. So we made it to Lynchburg. It was about a 3.5 hour drive from where we were in South Carolina. Michelle drove the first half, and on the readout on the dashboard, she was getting over 40 miles to the gallon. It was reading almost 40.8, sort of almost going to hit that 41, and then I started driving. I don't really drive when we're taking trips like this much faster than she does. However, I do use the cruise control, and I did see that number go down over the hour and 15, hour and a half that I was driving. So I dropped it down a little bit from our high of almost 41. When we were all said and done, it was 38.6. So I was definitely dropping it down. Now, we did remember to hit the eco mode every time we got in the car, so we didn't forget once. We did pretty good with that. But we definitely do see an increase so far with the eco mode. It could be, you know, up to 2 miles per hour, maybe 3 miles per gallon, I should say, difference. And it seems like the difference shows more when you're driving, not using the cruise control, than when I'm driving using the cruise control. And it's probably got something to do with when you're using the cruise control, there's not as much off throttle as there is when you're driving normally. When you're driving normally and you see some traffic up ahead, you kind of pull your foot off the throttle, whereas cruise control, you're adjusting it down and you're keeping steady throttle. So that could be the difference. But we refueled in Lynchburg before we left this morning. I put 6.8 gallons in. We did a total of 262.2 miles, and that brings us to 38.6, figuring it out from how much gas we topped the tank back off again with. And the computer says 39.4. So if we even split the difference like we did before, that's 39 miles per gallon, which is an average of 1 mile per gallon more in the eco mode on the highway. And like I said, I think that we're gonna see more too. If I could be Nostradamus and predict what's gonna happen by the time we get back to New York, we're probably gonna see 2 to 2.5 miles per gallon more efficient in the eco mode. And I did not notice any difference in the power that we have available when you need to give it gas and pass somebody. I really didn't notice a big difference of when it dips down into the to the green where it's recharging the batteries. Right? Did you notice any difference?
Nope.
So driving around in eco and normal mode, really didn't notice the difference. Maybe if I knew what the exact difference was, I'd look for it and then notice it. So while we take this leg headed north, I'm going to look up and see if I can get information on what the eco mode actually does, what the vehicle's doing when it's in eco mode, to see if we can notice that the vehicle's doing that or not. Well, we'll see. We'll check back in with you in a few hours.
See ya.
Just made it back to New York.
Finally. No, it was a nice ride. I won't complain.
On our second leg of the trip, we did 386 miles, topped the tank back off again, and it was 9.8 gallons, which gives us our computed mile per gallon at 39.4, and the vehicle was telling us 39.4 either. Also. So it actually, over the course of the whole trip, using the eco mode, what we did in real life, topping the tank off, taking the gallons, dividing it by how many miles we went, and what the vehicle said, got closer than in normal mode. Right. And that could just be because the pumps we were hitting maybe were more accurate, where they were shutting off the tank, who knows. But it was so close. You know, what the computer was, or the computer in the car was figuring out, and what we were figuring out was on the way home within a mile per gallon, and on the way down, using the normal mode in the previous video, was only a 3 mile per gallon swing, so we cut it in half. This one, 39.4, was our total. And like I said, in the eco mode, and we did eco mode every leg of the way. We didn't forget once to put it on eco mode. It seemed like if you were the only one driving, or if I did not use cruise control, we would have been over 40. But because I got in the car and I started using cruise control, it seems that when the cruise control wants to slow down, it doesn't take your foot off the gas like you do when you're driving normally and you're going to slow down and you see traffic slowing down. You take your foot off, and then the vehicle goes into regenerative mode for a little bit, and it might even run all electric for a little bit when you take your foot off the gas at highway speeds, where cruise control doesn't do that. So that's that fluctuation.
I like to pay attention when I drive. That's why I don't use cruise control.
But that's that fluctuation. And it's only a mile or so per gallon fluctuation, which really isn't much. But 39.4, that's pretty good, especially for us coming out of driving Suburbans and Rams.
Cheapest trip ever in gas.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Got to add that up and see how much we actually spent in gas.
So we're doing like 3 times better than the Suburbans and at least double the Ram. The Ram on a long trip we were getting like 20, but as soon as we got to around town, now we're at 10. Right, so that really killed it. You had to be going for a long ways. The 746.8 miles on this return trip, and we only had to fuel up twice, and we still have 3/4 of a tank of fuel.
Yep.
Pretty neat.
But we put 1,700 miles on the car.
Yeah, 1789.7, and we've had it
2 weeks.
About 10 days.
Yeah. 1,000 miles a week.
But it was that's our eco test. So the eco mode definitely does something. Like I said in a previous clip, I looked it up, and Ford says eco mode saves you fuel. It doesn't say how it saves you fuel. And I did a little more digging online, and it says that it can make the throttle less responsive in eco mode, so that when you're giving it throttle, you're not giving it as much throttle as you would normally be giving it. There's a lot of speculation, but no concrete things that I could find real quick on how the eco mode actually works. What I did notice, and I didn't tell you because I wanted to see if you noticed it, was I did notice that when it goes into the green on the gauge, into the regen or the recharging part of the battery, in eco mode it seems like when you let off the gas, it goes deep into it. Where in non-eco mode it just goes into it a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
You notice the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like it's putting more juice back into the batteries in the eco mode. But the car didn't drive any different. It really didn't. It didn't feel like it didn't have the same power. Everything felt normal in the eco mode. And we made out probably, if we had to round it, I'm going to say a 2 mile per gallon increase total. Because if you were just driving it, you would have got 2. I'm just driving it, I'm going to get 1.5 we got. So I think we're at 38 in normal. 39.4, we'll call it 39.5 in eco, 1.5 miles. I'd round it to 2. I'm comfortable saying 2. Eco gives you 2. And this is highway driving. We're not talking about around town or anything like that. We'll do some testing with that. That's the 2023 Ford Maverick with the hybrid. And that's our real world test. We just did a 746-mile trip from South Carolina back to New York. And those are our results. Hope you enjoyed the video. What about you? Did you like the ride?
Loved it.
So,
I always like a long drive.
So far, we're happy with
like driving.
With this vehicle. It made the trip nice. It drove nice. It was comfortable.
No complaints from me.
Good trip in the Maverick so far.
Got us to where we had to be.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know what your mileage results were in the comments below. And if you want us to do any more real-life road testing, we like to go for rides. So let us know what it is, and we'll get it done. As always, thanks for watching.
Bye.